Hi everyone, welcome to the Productive Mind podcast. My name is Andrew and I'm here joined by Shyam. As college students, we're exploring innovative ways to enhance productivity, maintain motivation, and cultivate a well-balanced and healthy lifestyle. Join us as we interview professionals from diverse career paths to gain insight into leading a more productive and healthy lifestyle. We will also address specific topics such as time management, organization, goal setting, and more. Before we get started, we are going to highlight a productivity tool that you could use to be more productive. I'm a big fan of using planners and often joke that without mine, I would never get anything done. By writing your goals down, you can gain clarity and focus by outlining your short-term and long-term goals. They also make it easy to block out time, plan ahead for weeks and months, and manage your schedule more effectively. Planners are essential tools for keeping track of important tasks, making sure that you are held accountable for what needs to be accomplished. While I personally prefer a physical planner, there are also plenty of great online options like Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, and many others that can be easily found with a quick search. Moving on to today's topic. Our guest speaker is once again Dr. Vineeth Agrawal, and we are going to talk about how to get more out of a conversation through passive listening. Dr. Agrawal is a seasoned general surgeon and former education solutions manager at Johnson & Johnson India. In 2023, he launched Clues, a training company specializing in selling skills for medical device sales teams. Currently, he serves as a consultant facilitator at the International Academy of Transformative Leadership, where he plays a key role in designing and delivering the transformative listening program. Trained under Maitreya Dadashiji, Dr. Agrawal has undergone a profound personal transformation and now helps others achieve the same. Dr. Agrawal is deeply involved with Maitri Bodh Parivar, where he contributes to team training events and project execution. He is passionate about helping people discover inner silence and emotional stability, and has developed a unique listening service called I Listen You. Tune in to hear how Dr. Agrawal blends his medical expertise with transformative leadership to guide individuals towards a more sensitive and fulfilling life. Welcome to this episode of The Power of Passive Listening. Welcome to the Productive Mind podcast.
From an early age, we've been taught how to actively listen and show consistent engagement in a conversation. This is an important skill to develop for personal and professional benefits. But have you heard of passive listening? It's not exactly as it sounds, and actually is a good thing.
Active listening is a conscious effort we make to receive and process information. It takes a lot of energy and focus. Passive listening, on the other hand, is an acquired skill that requires no effort to focus on the other person. It is the natural desire and willpower to listen and internalize information. Examples could include effortlessly paying attention to your lecture, or remembering what the task assigned by your boss was, or simply having a more positive experience from a conversation with your friend because you were able to be more invested through passive listening. So, Dr. Agrawal, what is passive listening?
So active listening, if you Google and if you search, it will tell you a couple of things. How to modify your body language in a way to show that you're listening. How to ask questions or keep paraphrasing what someone has said to let them know that you're listening to them. So all that is taught in active listening. Passive listening, on the other hand, is something which happens automatically. So in active listening, you are putting a lot of effort in being engaged with the other person. In passive listening, there is more focus on the context or the emotion behind what is being shared by the other person. So by default, a lot of us tend to focus on information, logical information. Someone is sharing some facts. But what happens in passive listening is you're able to take a step back and focus on, why is this person sharing this piece of information with me? What's in it for them? What is it that they're dealing with? And that helps you connect with people better. It helps you arrive at important points, important, I would say, areas which the other person might be wanting to express. If you look back at your own life and the way you communicate with people, are you able to effectively express how you're feeling or what what you want to convey, or it gets lost in trying to adjust based on how you're supposed to convey information. So this may sound a bit abstract right now. So in a conversation, you would, or the other person would always talk in a way that they have learned, right? It's difficult to keep modifying based on the other person. That, okay, this person in front of me understands information in a particular way, so I will change the way I speak. It doesn't happen. You would still continue to speak the way in which you have learned till now. So what happens in that process is we may or may not be able to effectively communicate with others what exactly we want to share. And many a times we want to express a feeling or an emotion, but we don't know how the other person will receive it. So you modify what you're going to say and maybe say logical things and try to communicate what you're saying. So let's say you're angry about something. You may not express your anger, but you will figure out a set of words in which you hope the other person will understand that you're feeling angry. But you're not actually said that this is how you are making me feel. So it's left to the other person to figure out that you were upset about something and you had to respond in a certain way. So in passive listening, you're able to pick up crucial information from the other person, not based on what they are saying, but why they are saying it. So your focus shifts from the actual words to the meaning behind those words. And that's why I feel that this kind of a listening is more meaningful. It builds connection. It helps you arrive at decisions, conclusions, and helps you resolve things faster.
So you're essentially just becoming more aware of like their tone, their body language, and like kind of like reading in between the lines.
Yes.
Okay, so I see.
So can you kind of elaborate on, as a passive listener, what you're kind of looking for in addition to tone and body language? Kind of, in order to be a good passive listener, what are we supposed to be paying attention to?
Great. So if you again see your body or your entire being as physical, mental, emotional, there's a lot of interference which happens when you're listening. So let's say someone has approached you and they are trying to express something. A lot of things will come in the way. Your body is first. So are you full of energy or are you tired at that point? If you're tired, you cannot receive anything. Your mind also comes in the way. Are you able to focus or are you already occupied with something else? So the person is sharing something, but you are already thinking about some event or some situation, something that you have to deal with, or your own, you have some pain or hurt or some situation you are dealing with. Then you have emotions, your own emotions, which become a barrier. So if you are not feeling great on a particular day, and if someone is trying to talk to you, you will find that you can apply active listening. That, okay, I have learned active listening. Even though I'm not feeling great, I will do all those mechanical things, that I will align my body language, I will paraphrase, or I will ask questions to let the other person know I'm listening. But emotionally, you're not there. So the other person will always feel that there's no connection, and they will always feel that they were not heard properly. So all these things come in the way. In passive listening, the aim is to bypass all of this. The ultimate state of passive listening is when you don't exist anymore, in the sense that when you are in front of someone, only your body is there. You don't have any active thoughts running through you. There are no major emotions which are interfering with what you're listening. So it's like you are a shell, you're empty. And you're simply just receiving everything from the other person, and it could just pass through you. So that is I would say, the ultimate state of passive listening. In active listening, you are still there mentally. So mentally, you're trying to process the information, you're trying to respond back, and it takes a lot of effort. In passive listening, when you are not there anymore as an identity, it becomes much easier for you to absorb information. The other person feels like you're there for them. They will also feel like, they are talking to a mirror. They're able to, or a white wall, they're able to write anything they want, express anything they want. And in all of this, they will get their own clarity.
So you mentioned that this entire process was kind of automatic. It's something we're kind of automatically do without consciously trying to passively listen. Like active listening is more conscious, and then this is kind of like, is that what you're saying, or not really?
Yes. Yeah. So I'll pick up on what you shared just now. So you mentioned the conscious, and so if you see your mind or the brain, there is a conscious part of your brain, which means is you are aware of what you are thinking. Like thoughts are coming and you're aware and you take action on those thoughts. There is a subconscious part of your brain where there is some activity happening and you're not aware of it. For example, these are patterns or judgments that you develop about people or situations, and they're stored over there. And every time you come across information in the back of your mind, there is some processing happening, and it gives you an output. That output goes into your conscious mind or your conscious brain. But a lot of processing has happened in the subconscious mind. So conscious mind is around 10% of your brain. 90% of your brain is subconscious. And if you go deeper than subconscious, there is a concept of unconscious, where you are free of the mind. So the mind as an identity or an interference is not there. So what remains is just pure essence of you, and you are completely there, available, present for the other person.
So how does somebody unlock that unconscious level? Is it through like certain exercise, like mental exercises, or how do you get to that level? How do you become aware enough to reach that level where you can kind of escape your mind and just absorb?
Yes, it's a process. So it'll not happen overnight. So I would have to first explain again in the levels of physical, mental, and emotional. So when you see listening also happens at each level. So at a physical level, you are listening to your environment, things around you. Let's say you are have a work study or a workstation. If it is organized and clutter-free, it's easier for you to work. But if it's a mess, it interferes with your functioning. So that's one ability of listening, that are you in tune with your environment and surrounding, and you can clean that up to support you. The other aspect of physical listening is your body. So in your body, there are two types of sensations. We call them gross sensations, which are large, like you feel hungry or there is some pain somewhere. So you're forced to focus on it. The other part of sensations is subtle sensations, where you're able to pick up signals in your body that, okay, your body needs rest, or your body needs movement, or there's some discomfort somewhere, and you're able to listen to that and respond accordingly. So that's a physical level of listening that we adopt. When you go deeper, there is mental listening. So that's when you are able to focus on your thoughts. Now, if you look back and observe, you exist in two states. One is you are the mind, you become the mind. And the other state is you are able to observe the mind. So most of your day, you don't think about thinking. So thoughts come, you feel that you are that thought and you keep executing actions. But there are moments in the day where you are aware that I am thinking. Has that happened to you?
Yes. It's like a moment of reflection, kind of like, why am I thinking this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Or there's some idea going on in your mind and you suddenly realize that, okay, I am thinking.
Mhm.
So there's a separation between you and that thought. So these are the two states mentally that you exist. So our effort or our aim again is to try and separate or be more in the state that I am aware of my thinking. Because if you just become the thought and you're just doing action, then again you're not there fully for the other person. So again, at a mental level, the listening is you're able to observe your thoughts. Okay. So we spoke about physical, how your external environment you're able to listen to, plus your own body if you're able to listen to. Then at a mental level, deeper to that, you have your emotions. So what happens with emotions is either you acknowledge them or you ignore them. So for example, there is a person or a situation which always upsets you. Okay, this person may be in your life, and I think everybody on the planet has one person at least who's like a pain. Like every time you interact with them, they're going to generate some emotions in you, and you don't like interacting with the person. But for some reason or the other, you have to interact with them. So in that moment, you can either ignore that emotion, that it's okay, I'll just suppress it, bury it, I'll not think about it again. Or you choose to acknowledge that, okay, I am a kind of person who feels this way when I am in this situation. So that is acknowledging it. So that's listening to your emotions. So the more you listen to your emotions, the better you will be at getting over them or resolving them. Then the last level, so if you see physical, mental, emotional, it's your gut or your intuition. Are you able to listen to your intuition or not? And that is simply your connection with yourself. So if you have to develop passive listening where it becomes effortless for you, your focus first to start off with should be on your emotions. So the physical part and the mental part, there's enough information out there. They will teach you how to keep your body still or keep your mind still. But the crux of it lies in the emotions. If you're able to regulate or influence your emotions in a way that when you are in interaction with others, your own emotions are not influencing you. You're able to listen much better. And to achieve that, you need to figure out ways of first acknowledging and identifying your own emotions and then understanding how to resolve them.
So I guess you're saying in order to be a good passive listener for others, you have to work on yourself in a sense first, right? You have to understand your own emotions and then see how. So is the idea that you see how you express it and then are able to project that onto others and are able to see how they express it, or am I misinterpreting that?
No, you're somewhere there. So to move towards passive listening, you have to learn how to empty yourself. So you have to become free of everything which interferes in your process of listening. So in active listening, you think you are a good listener, right? So you mentally, when you're listening, you're also aware that, okay, am I applying the principles of active listening? Am I doing all the right things that I need to do for active listening? In passive listening, there's no thought. So there is no thought, okay, am I listening well? Am I doing the right thing? Everything happens by default because you have made the effort to fully be there in that moment. So the effort in passive listening is to empty yourself completely or bypass all the barriers or all the interference which is happening.
So you're saying, I guess kind of in summary, in order to be a good passive listener, I guess some of the most important parts is to be an empty listener and then control your emotions, right?
Yes. So I wouldn't say control. It's very difficult to control your emotions. You can only learn how to regulate or influence them.
So those are more like abstract, kind of deeper areas, or just harder to do. Like, how do you put that into practice, or how do you go about doing that?
Yes. So if we agree that becoming empty is the way to be a passive listener, you have to try to work on the mind as well as the emotions. Now, to empty, or I would say to regulate your emotions, you have to understand the source of emotions and the impact of emotions on you. So if I ask you that every day you feel different emotions, right? In the day it's something else, in the night it's something else. So where does emotion come from and why does it keep changing? Why can't we all have joy throughout the day? Or what's been your experience with emotions? Like, what have you observed about yourself?
Well, it's like depending on my interactions with other people or like an event that's like happened to me. Like if I do bad on a test, then I like become sad. Or if I have a good interaction with a friend, then I'll become happy. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I consider myself pretty self-aware in that aspect and being able to identify like what makes me happy.
I guess my emotions are unregulated, ever changing, I guess you could say. I kind of just, it's like he said, kind of influenced by external factors for the most part. Or really only influenced by external factors and kind of what's going on around me.
Excellent. So both of you mentioned that your emotions are influenced by external factors. Okay, that's true. But has it also happened that around you everything is good, but you're not feeling good?
Yep, there are certain days, I guess, that would be
That you're feeling sad for no reason.
But wouldn't that's I still feel like I'd feel sad for some reason because something happened. Maybe I just haven't accepted that yet or found what that wrong thing was in my life, but I would still consider that like an external factor that's making me upset. So
Okay, good. That's one way of looking at it. Have you ever been happy for no reason?
it's just like wake up one day.
Yeah, just wake up one day and you're like just happy.
Yeah.
I've had those days where you don't really know where it's coming from, but you're feeling good.
Yeah, so at that moment there was no external factor. So your emotions are influenced, one, by your external factors, and second is also there's something inside of you that is governing or deciding what emotion you're going to feel. So think of it as you fill a basket or a drum with some things. So when you shake it, what gets shaken up or what comes out is whatever's inside it. So emotions also, when you repeatedly experience an emotion, it becomes a part of you. So it gets stored as a memory. And anytime there's a situation which is relevant to that emotion, there will be like a reaction from you. So same way, all that is stored within you since you were small will keep influencing the emotion that you're going to experience on a day-to-day basis. So if you have to move towards listening or become empty, you have to start clearing that up. And the best example that I can give is storing of emotions or storing of your memories is like twisting a rope. So you take a rope and you keep twisting it, keep twisting it. What is required to untwist it? It'll just stop. If you stop twisting, what will happen?
Oh, it'll untwist on its own.
On itself, right? So the only effort required from your side is to stop twisting it, just to stop adding more.
Okay.
And the moment you stop adding more, whatever was stored before will start clearing out.
So why does someone need to be a good listener?
If you observe your day, any day, you will notice that 65% of your time is spent in listening, and it's only 35% or less in which you are talking. So whether it's listening to anything online or in person, you're attending lectures, or you're just outside, you're hearing sounds, right? The traffic is there and just general sounds around you. So more than 2/3 of your time in the day goes in listening. So if that's something that you're doing majority of your time, it makes sense to become better at it. Because only when you are able to listen well, you will be able to communicate well. So only what you absorb, what you assimilate, you're able to give back. You can't just create out of nothing. So it's important to spend more time, more energy in learning how to be a good listener.
So let's take our podcast listeners right now. What is kind of going on in their head?
So when we look at listening, or there's a process which happens, and a lot of it happens subconsciously. So these is what we call as components of listening. So in listening, there is someone who is talking. There's someone who's listening. Now, between the person who's speaking, so they are sharing their interpretation of what happened to them. So let's say somebody went through a situation, someone said something to them, and they are sharing their story with you. Now, when they are sharing it, they are sharing their version of it with added more layers to it, that this is how I felt, this is what happened, that person is like this. So they add their own interpretation to what happened to them. The person who is listening to the podcast right now and whatever we discussed, they are listening with their own perception and judgment. So as the words that I'm speaking and whatever you said, they are associating this with information they already know. And that is constantly interfering. So for example, I've heard this before. This is not new information for me. Oh, this is interesting. So this kind of background noise is happening to someone who's listening to the podcast. So as they are sharing this concept, they are also seeing it in a particular way. And then after that, they will create their own interpretation too of what they heard, what is correct, what is not correct. They will take away information which makes sense to them. And a lot of times it may or may not be the reality. So let's say the event or situation is happening, but so many realities of it or alternate realities got created because so many different minds are receiving the information. So this is what happens in the act of listening. And when we say that we have to become a good listener, you have to be able to reduce or destroy the interpretation which happens. So your own version of reality should not happen when you're listening. You should be able to receive information as it is. There should not be any judgment from your side which is added to that information. So that is when you become a good listener. So people who are listening to the podcast, everything they have heard till now, they're still making those associations. They're making those connections that, okay, this information I understand, this I didn't understand. What I didn't understand, I'll just reject it. What I understand, maybe I'll accept it. So all that is happening in their background. So all of this noise is also part of listening. And our effort is to reduce that noise.
So I guess to summarize, listening is essentially 3 components. One, it's at face value what that person is telling you. The second step, you're essentially applying your own filter or lens based off of your own emotions, experience, background, and you're adding it to what they're saying at face value and then essentially interpreting it.
You're
on
creating
your
your own version of it.
Exactly. And then the third step is kind of taking all of that into account and then kind of leaving yourself with a final message
Yeah.
based off of all of that. And so in order to be a good listener, you're saying the steps 2 and 3, where there's some interpretation in your own background and experiences involved, you're going to kind of minimize that
Yes.
and reduce its influence in order to be a good listener. Got it. Okay.
So to get to that point, how does one realize that they are, like, all these other filters are affecting the way they're seeing things?
And that's the whole game. So you need a certain level of awareness to know that all this is happening to you. Now, those who are listening, because I said those things that as you're listening, this is happening, they may have become aware of their own thought process. But to be able to become aware of this thought process on your own, you need to invest your time and energy to increase your level of awareness. So, for example, let's say you said something that you shouldn't have said to someone, like a friend, you said something mean or rude. You said it, and maybe after a day, you realize that what you did was not good, was not right. Okay, so that awareness of your words and your action hit you later on. When you progress, you may reach a stage that you said something that was rude, but say an hour later, you realize what you did was wrong. Then as you progress more in awareness, you reach a point that immediately after you say something rude, you will realize that what you did was wrong. Then you reach a stage that as you're saying something rude, you are in realization that I am saying something rude and I should not be doing it. Then the next step of awareness comes that just before making that statement of being rude, you will realize that I'm about to say something rude and you'll stop yourself. And then the last stage will come of awareness that there is no need inside of you, or there's no reaction inside of you to be rude. You understand the point of view of the other person, you understand where they're coming from, and there's no reaction generated within you. Okay, so that's like the journey that someone has to go through. So whoever's listening, I hope they were able to identify where they were, at which step they were of awareness. And in listening, one of the main parts is building your awareness of what you're doing and what the other person is sharing with you.
I feel like a question that a lot of listeners might have would be like, how do you build that awareness? Like, would this be through meditation, through some other kind of like mindful activities, or like how did you build your self-awareness in that aspect?
So there were many factors to it. And for this, we will have to get into listening as a concept in detail. So you might have heard of active listening as a concept, where if you learn it, you're taught how to manage your body language. You're supposed to keep signaling to the other person that you are listening to them.
It's like nodding your head.
Nodding your head, yes.
Eye contact.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
You're taught how to paraphrase or summarize. So let's say the other person says a few sentences, and after each of them, you summarize it and ask, is this what you said? Just to clarify. Or you're taught how to ask some questions to take the conversation ahead. So all that is part of active listening. To increase your level of awareness, you will have to start exploring a concept called passive listening. So passive listening is where you're able to start reducing that perception and that interpretation or the judgment that we spoke about. So as you're listening to someone, your own self is not interfering. Your own thoughts, your own memory, your own emotions, they're not coming in the way. So when that happens, automatically you are there for that person. You're physically, mentally, emotionally, you're just physically present over there. When that happens, your awareness level increases automatically. So focus over here is to explore certain concepts of passive listening and understand how we can try to move towards passive listening.
Could you give an example of a scenario where passive listening like plays a role and how it would make that scenario have a more positive outcome in the end?
Sure. So let's take two friends, okay, very close friends. And one day, let's say friend A and friend B. Friend A was very angry about something, and he raised his voice and abused friend B. And friend B got hurt, like very hurt, and to the extent that friend B no longer wanted to talk to friend A. Now, if friend B was trained in passive listening, what will happen in that situation? So, what happened without listening is friend B received all that abuse from friend A and identified with it, related with it, that my ego is hurt or my self esteem is hurt. How could my friend say something like this to me? It is not right for my friend to treat me like this. So it's a lot of I, me, myself, which comes in the picture when you are faced with something unpleasant. If you were trained in passive listening, what would happen is I, me, myself is not there. So even though your friend is upset, they are maybe abusing you. So I'm not saying it's right for someone to abuse someone, but so even if your friend is saying harsh words to you, you have the capacity to receive it. So you're not reacting instantly. You're able to take a step back. It's not about I, me, myself, that how can someone treat me like this? How can someone say like this to me? It's taking a step back, taking a pause, and trying to explore why my friend is angry. What is the space he or she is coming from? Has something happened in their life or some situation has happened which is causing them to behave like this? So it allows you to not get caught up with yourself. So in passive listening, that's the beauty of it. So it's not like you lose sense of right and wrong. You would still treat a certain situation as right or wrong, but you have the ability not to react in that moment and respond in a way that will, if you really value your friendship, then you're going to take an effort to preserve it and not just break it off. So that's a situation where it would be very helpful.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, in order to be a good passive listener, we have to take a step back from ourselves and essentially put ourselves in their shoes and then try to understand why they're saying what they're saying.
Yeah, not an easy thing to do.
Right. So let's kind of think of, I guess, a more day-to-day example and try to see how I could apply, because I'm still kind of having trouble.
Yeah, sure. Please
applying.
go ahead. Yeah.
Or seeing how to be a passive listener. So let's say, I guess something a lot of students do is attending lectures. So let's just say you're a student attending a really basic lecture about any concept that you could pick, but the professor's just kind of going on about this topic. How do you kind of pick up on cues where he's kind of just lecturing away, I guess. And there's not as many visual and auditory cues to pick up from.
Correct. So, can I rephrase your question that in any scenario which may not support you in learning, how can you still apply listening to learn?
Sure.
Right. So, not all professors are going to be teaching the way that you love. Right. So, but as a student, it's your responsibility to extract all the information that you need. So, the first thing is, when you're not trained to listen well, you have created dependency on others. That it's other people's ability to communicate which will decide whether you're learning or not. Right? So you have to overcome that in a way that whatever information in however way it's coming, am I ready to receive it? So what happened in the situation where professors, let's say monotone or just going on and on, mentally you were switched off, right? You got bored or you couldn't pay attention, which means your mental capacity to be there was not enough. If you are bored, not interested, then your emotional capacity to be there is not enough, which could also mean that it's not a subject that you like. So let's say it was your favorite subject. Then no matter what the teacher is or the professor, you would still take interest in it, right? So your emotional aspect plays a role in whether you will listen well or not. And physically, your physical presence makes a difference on how you listen. So if you just lean back on a chair and you're as if you're on a couch, you'll go to sleep. So your body language has to be stiff, it has to be alert to be able to be in a receiving mode. So all those things have to be in place so that you are not dependent on how the information is coming to you.
Okay, so I guess kind of getting good at that just involves making an active effort and doing it over and over again until kind of becomes practice to be a good passive listener.
Yeah, so we can break it down. If you have to work towards being a good listener, so let's forget about active and passive for now. Just understanding how to be a good listener. So there are two main parts. You have to learn how to be a good listener to yourself, and then you progress to being a good listener to others. So listening to yourself is first part and listening to others is the second part. Now, listening to yourself, we can look at ourselves in different dimensions or aspects. So there's a physical part of you, there's a mental part of you, there's an emotional part of you, and there's an innermost part of you. So if I ask you, you can even write this down, those who are listening, if you have a piece of paper or pen. Can you write down 3 things that your body is telling you? Okay, it could be hunger, it could be pain, it could be stiffness, anything. Are you able to pick up right now 3 things your body is telling you? Okay, that is in the last 24 hours. When you move to the next component of listening, which is your mind. So you have a physical body, then your mind, which is your thoughts. So in the last 24 hours or 72 hours, are you able to write down any repetitive thoughts that you have had? So a lot of, go ahead.
So what do you mean by repetitive thoughts that you had? Let's say you're in pain. So if you felt pain over multiple times over the 72 hours, that's like a
yes, it could be one. Or let's say an assignment is coming up and you're constantly worrying about it. So you're trying to focus on something else, but that thought keeps coming. Okay, I need to finish that task.
Got it.
Right. So that's a repetitive thought. So are you able to identify repetitive thoughts? The next, if you have to listen to yourself, the other dimension is your emotions. So in the last 1 week, Are you able to identify 3 emotions you have experienced at a high intensity? Okay, so it could be anxiousness, it could be fear, it could be joy, it could be anything. But even emotions work in that way, that there'll be ups and downs in the day, but there is a baseline of emotions that you experience based on situations or whatever's happening in your life. So are you able to identify or observe the emotions you have had over the last 1 week? And the last level of listening is your innermost part, which you can say instinct or intuition. So in the last 1 month, or you can expand to 3 months also, have you had an epiphany or have you had a gut feeling which you listen to? Okay, so this is a very simple exercise. So if you have to learn how to get better at listening to yourself, you can keep doing this exercise. So what we are trying to do again is building awareness. So the awareness we spoke about, the levels of awareness. So if you start focusing on yourself, so by default, your own body, your own system is one of the greatest teachers that you have. So you can use your entire being to learn how to listen better. So if you practice this, then slowly your awareness will increase. That how is my body feeling, or what is the body's signal that I'm supposed to respond to? What is the nature of my thoughts? Do I have repetitive, and why am I getting repetitive thoughts? Why am I feeling these emotions on a regular basis? So at least that awareness will come. So this whole activity is to help you build awareness about yourself. So this is one part of it, which is trying to get better at listening to yourself. The other part of listening is listening to others, where you are completely present in that moment for the other person. And that's where there's a difference in active and passive listening. So in active listening, you are still listening with your mind. So you're constantly trying to process information, figuring out how to respond back, what to say, what not to say. So all this is happening in your mind. At the same time, you're trying to listen to someone. So there is a lot of effort required in listening that way. But in passive listening is if you're able to eliminate the interference of your mind, so the mind that we spoke about, the repetitive thoughts, or the influence of your emotions. So no matter how you are feeling, if you're still able to just bypass that and be available to the other person. So that is listening to others in the true sense. So these are the two aspects of listening. If you want to become a better listener, listening to yourself, and then trying to listen to others and eliminating or reducing the interference of your own mind and emotions.
Is it kind of like 2 steps though? So first you have to become like self-aware and listen to yourself to then be able to truly like passively listen and understand, or like truly listen to somebody else and what they're saying.
Yeah, so all of these things happen simultaneously. So it's not sequential that you will first work on awareness, then you will become better at listening and so on. So they are all intertwined, they're all entangled. You choose anything, start anywhere, and slowly you will see improvement in all of them. So let's say you focus only on your body. So this week I'm only going to try and be aware of my body. Then automatically your awareness will increase. And when you become aware of your own body, you will start noticing and observing other people's body language by default. So for example, let's say you want to buy a red car, right? What do you see on the street?
Only red cars.
Only red cars, right? So the same thing happens. So what you focus on will expand. So if you're able to develop an awareness about your own body, then your perception and your awareness, ability to pick up body language will become automatic. So that's what we mean by passive. So the effort you're putting on yourself, but the result of it is automatically you'll be able to pick up things about other people too. Like, for example, when you're sitting in front of me, right? I'm constantly aware of how you are feeling and whether you have, uh, you're interested, not interested, what your energy is like. So all that information is coming by default. It's not like I'm actively trying to get that information from you.
But that's because you're aware of yourself. Like you know what you would feel. Like you're able to put yourself in our shoes.
Yeah.
And so you're able to understand yourself in a way in a way that's where you're comfortable to the point where you're able to understand another person in a sense.
Yes.
Okay. So going back to that exercise that you were talking about to kind of increase your awareness in order to understand both yourself and others, there's a 3-part exercise. The physical is
Listening to your body, the signals of your body. Yes.
Okay. And then emotions, and that's kind of being able to regulate your emotions and understand.
No, just observe. Don't try to regulate. Just observe your emotions. Yeah.
Okay. And then that intuition and epiphany.
Yes. And the mind,
Right.
the thoughts. Yeah.
So just maybe writing these down.
Yeah.
If our listeners just write these down, maybe on a daily basis, or just as a habit every now and then, they could kind of get better at becoming a better listener in general, but also becoming a better passive listener. Got it.
Many people already feel that they're good at listening. So how does one realize that there's room for improvement in their listening?
The best way to know if you are a good listener is to ask others. So if you have to be open enough for feedback. So let's say after a conversation, if you are genuinely interested in becoming a better listener, and we have discussed all the benefits of why someone should become good at listening, is to ask that, how did you feel after our conversation? So let's say it's person A and person B, and the person B was doing the listening. After the conversation, person B should ask person A that, how did you feel in our conversation? Did you feel heard? Did you feel acknowledged? Did you feel that I was fully there for you? So that kind of a question will tell you immediately whether you were doing well at listening or not. The second way in which one can know that are they good listeners or not is whether you add your own stories to the conversation. So let's say somebody, friend A and friend B, is sharing. Friend A is sharing, this happened to me, my dad yelled at me and said this and said that. So friend B goes like, oh yeah, my dad also does the same thing all the time, even I have to face this situation. So instead of empathizing or being there for friend A, friend B started sharing their own stories. So you were not listening, you just correlated with your own life, and you also had that need of, I also want to express. So in listening, that need of I also want to express is not there. So if there's a constant need in you that I also have to share my bit, then there's a lot of room for improvement. That's a second way to know that whether you keep adding your own stories and examples of your life in the middle of conversations, even when someone is sharing something sensitive with you. The third way, which is very obvious to know if you are good at listening, is, do you cut people off? So when somebody is sharing, mid-sentence, do you stop someone and add your bit or add your opinion or add your idea, or you allow someone to fully finish what they're saying? That's a very obvious thing. And the last thing that I would say, if you are good at listening or not, and this is slightly more complex, when you are listening, are you aware that you are listening? That you're just there, you're aware of yourself, your own body language, and you're aware of the other person, and the fact that you're just there to listen. So that there's an awareness that you are simply just listening. So if that awareness is not there, then there's a lot of room for improvement, at least in passive listening.
So going back to one of like our first examples with friend A and friend B friend A getting mad at friend B, what should be friend B's thought process in the moment to like bypass their filters and make sure that they're truly listening to friend A?
Great. So there is no overnight solution for that. So we discussed the levels, or I would say steps of awareness, that you say something rude and then you realize later on and so on. So same way, you have to first figure out where you are. So if you have to bypass your filters and get better, you have to first identify where you are. So let's say in the conversation you got hurt and you also said a few things back. So maybe after a day or 2 days or a week, you will realize that you could have done or you could have responded differently. So, this person was my best friend. I could have, allowed that person to just express themselves and I could have stayed silent. That's a realization which came, let's say, after a week. So in that realization, now this is individual for all, you have to note down that what was the reason I got angry. That although my friend A was angry at friend B, so why did friend B get angry also, got hurt? So what are the reasons? Was it your own ego? Was it your own idea of something that was being rejected? Or it was your attachment with your friend that caused that hurt? It could be anything. So you have to be able to find the reason first, that what was the reason of your response. It could be anything. And once you find that reason, that itself is very powerful. So a lot of times we only focus on the fact I got hurt or I'm feeling pain. And you live with that this person hurt me, this person caused me pain. And 1 week, 2 weeks, you're just with that thought. But if you do this exercise, if you're able to, and you might need support, you might need to go in an environment which is positive. You might need to associate yourself with people who are positive to be able to think like this. That what was the main reason I got upset? That friend A yelled at me. When you reach that reason, so awareness of the reason itself is very powerful. So that will automatically start helping you bypass that filter. So the next time in a similar conversation, that awareness will help you. That this is the reason why I get upset, and it's okay if let the person express. So some people call it journaling, some people call it just noting down things, but it's simply keeping a note that this is the reason why I felt this way.
So this is, in a sense, just becoming more aware of your filters by writing it down. And so the next time you have a conversation with somebody, you know what you've written down that is acting as a filter when you're interpreting what they're saying.
Yeah. And the second step of this is you have to communicate this to your friend. So whatever reason you arrived at, you should be able to express this to your friend, that you said all those things to me that day and I got upset because XYZ, whatever the reason was. Right? Your friendship should be strong enough to be able to, have that expression between friend A and friend B. So when you express it from your side, 100% of the time, your friend, if it's actually your friend, they will understand and realize and even apologize. And they will also make an effort to correct themselves in their interaction with you. So realizing first that what is the block with me or the filter with me, and then communicating that to the other person goes a long way in resolving it.
So to kind of summarize for our listeners, maybe if you've got lost up at this point, listening is twofold. There's They kind of go in hand with each other. You have to increase your awareness of both yourself and the person that you're communicating with. And then you want to bypass your own filters, kind of interpret what they're saying without adding your own interpretations to it. And so from this, we're going to kind of transition to, during a conversation, what can one do to kind of enhance their quality of listening?
So if you look back at the conversations you may have had with your friends or your family, relatives, and so on, a lot of people talk from the level of their mind, that they will share what they are thinking. What adds more quality to listening is when the conversation becomes about what they are feeling. So in a so let's say your friend is complaining about something, right? My professor did this, or my parents said this, that. They're just complaining, and it's fully their mind and thoughts which is coming out in the conversation. So one of the best questions you can ask, and it's a common question that can be asked, is, so how did that make you feel? So they may be saying a lot of stuff, right? But they may be avoiding the actual emotion behind it. So what really got them upset? So asking this question, that, okay, so how did that make you feel? So it'll shift the other person's focus from just that situation to themselves. And once someone starts expressing how they are feeling, automatically they will start settling down. So in one of the other podcasts, we learned about contracting and expanding emotions. So the moment someone expresses their contracting emotions, they'll start feeling better. So if you also have to enhance, then just simply ask this question. Okay, so how did that make you feel?
All right, so kind of wrapping it up, how do you see this skill, the skill of listening, being useful for young adults going into the workforce, whether it's the corporate field or healthcare? Like, what should our listeners walk away with?
So we discussed two aspects of listening, which is listening to yourself and listening to others. Listening to yourself will help you filter out unnecessary things. So if you listen to your body, listen to your mind, listen to your emotion, listen to your instinct, you will know exactly what you need to do to take care of each aspect and align yourself with the goals you have in mind. Listening to others is going to help you filter out unnecessary people and unnecessary situations. You will understand what is taking away energy from you, and you shouldn't expose yourself to those environments, and what is supporting you when you interact with others. So you associate more with those people. And listening to others is going to help you build much more meaningful connections at work. And in my experience, what eventually decides whether your work environment is good or not is the people around you. So if you are able to build your circle based on your listening skills, that this is what is good for me, then it will go a long way in whatever you choose as your life path.
Nice. Well, I hope we've been good listeners to you during this episode. We definitely already learned so much from you about truly learning how to listen and how that can improve so many aspects of our lives. So just want to say thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.
To wrap up, we'll leave you with a quote to remember this episode by. The following quote is by Peter Drucker, who is a management consultant, educator, and author. He says, "The most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said." Until next time, stay productive, positive, and keep pushing the boundary of what is possible. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.